Music. What's the safest alcohol after 60? Is red wine really good for your heart? Is whiskey better than beer? And what about those low-sugar cocktails everyone's drinking now? Most people don't know who to trust anymore. One article says alcohol helps you live longer. Another says even one drink is too much. But today, I'm asking someone who's lived through it all. Dr. Howard Tucker is 101 years old, still walking, still working, still practicing medicine 5 days a week. In fact, the Guinness Book of World Records officially named him the oldest practicing doctor on the planet. He's treated patients through wars, pandemics, and 7 decades of medical change. But even more impressive, he's never lost his edge. Not physically, not mentally, not emotionally. And when I asked him about alcohol, what to avoid, what to consider, and what to actually drink, he didn't give trendy answers. He gave truth, hard-earned, experience-backed, and refreshingly clear. Dr. Tucker, thank you for being here. Let's get right to it. We will discuss 5 types of alcohol that every senior should avoid and what alternatives there are so we can still drinking. We will save the best ones for the end of the video, so make sure to stay till the end. So, Dr. Tucker, what's the first type of alcohol you never recommend after 60 and why? Surgery cocktails is the first type of alcohol I tell people to avoid, especially after 60, is the sugary cocktail. I'm talking about margaritas, daiquiris, sweet sangrias, pre-mixed drinks with fruit juice or syrups. These are the ones that taste like dessert and behave like disaster. The problem isn't just the alcohol, it's the sugar. As you age, your body becomes less efficient at processing sugar. Your insulin response slows. Your liver, already working harder to process the alcohol, now has to manage a glucose surge at the same time. That's a recipe for inflammation, for blood pressure spikes, for late-night heartburn, early morning brain fog, and long-term metabolic stress. I've had patients who told me they only drink socially, 1 or 2 sweet cocktails per weekend, but over time they developed joint pain, bloating, and fatigue they couldn't explain. When we cut the cocktails, their energy came back, their digestion calmed down, their sleep improved. Another issue, these drinks often contain hidden additives, artificial colors, preservatives, cheap alcohol bases, and that makes the liver's job even harder. For seniors, this is a double hit. Alcohol dehydrates you, sugar spikes your blood. Together, they rob your cells of stability. They don't just age your skin, they age your organs. So, I always say if the drink is sweet enough to fool your taste buds, it's probably fooling your body too. Avoid sugary cocktails. At our age, you don't need chemical confusion in a glass. That makes total sense because it's not just about the alcohol content, it's about what comes with it. And most people have no idea how hard sugar hits the body after 60. It's marketed as fun. It feels harmless. But what I'm hearing is these cocktails create silent damage, and we don't connect the dots until years later. Now, there's another drink I want to ask about. It's one of the most common, especially for older men. A lot of people think it's light, easy, and safe in moderation. What's your take on beer, especially light beer and the big brand lagers? Beer is tricky. It's marketed as light, social, even hydrating. And for years, people assumed it was safer than hard liquor, especially the so-called light beers. But after 60, beer poses some real problems. First, volume. People don't sip beer. They drink it in large amounts, and even if the alcohol content is lower, the quantity adds up fast. Second, beer is loaded with compounds that bloat the gut: yeast, gluten, carbonation, preservatives. These don't mix well with an aging digestive system. I've had patients who were always feeling puffy, stiff, or mentally sluggish and didn't realize their harmless beer was contributing to systemic inflammation. Light beer isn't better. It's often worse. Why? Because when the alcohol is lowered, the body processes it differently and people drink more. The result is the same: more burden on the liver, more uric acid in the joints, and more pressure on the kidneys. And then there's something most people don't think about: hops. Hops are estrogenic. That means they mimic estrogen in the body. For older men especially, Too much beer can subtly shift hormone balance. More belly fat, lower testosterone, less drive. I've seen guys in their 60s and 70s complain of fatigue, weight gain, and lower mood, thinking it's just age. But once we take beer off the table, they start to feel sharper, lighter, more focused. Now, I'm not saying one beer will ruin you, but if it's your regular go-to, especially light beers or mass-produced lagers, it's worth rethinking. After 60, your body doesn't want bulk. It wants clarity. It wants precision. And beer gives you the opposite. That's eye-opening because most people think beer is the safe choice. But what you're saying is the volume, the additives, even the hormones, they all add up, especially when you drink it often and don't think it's doing any harm. And I want to say something here. We're not trying to scare people. We're not saying you can never enjoy a drink again. The truth is, for many people, alcohol is part of celebration. It's social, it's emotional, and in small amounts occasionally for someone in good health, it doesn't always cause harm. But when it becomes a habit, when the wrong types of alcohol show up week after week, that's when it starts to wear the body down, quietly, slowly, consistently. So this isn't about shame. It's about being smarter because your body is more sensitive than it used to be, and it deserves better. Now, I want to ask about something I see a lot of people over 60 turn to. Not beer, not cocktails, but hard liquor, especially whiskey. Usually the cheap kind, blended budget bottles. Dr. Tucker, what should seniors know about that kind of alcohol? Good question. Cheap whiskey and bargain spirits are one of the most overlooked dangers I see, especially in older adults trying to drink smarter. They think if I skip the beer, avoid sugar, and just stick to one shot of whiskey, that's fine. But not all liquor is created equal, and bargain spirits, the cheap blended stuff, come with risks most people don't realize. Cheaper whizzies and bottom-shelf liquors are often filled with additives, coloring agents, flavor chemicals, artificial aging techniques, and most of them contain something called congenas, byproducts of fermentation and distillation. These congenas are part of what gives dark liquor its flavor and punch. But they're also a major reason people feel worse after drinking it, especially as they age. Headaches, fatigue, nausea, mood swings, poor sleep. It's not just the alcohol, it's the other chemicals riding along with it. And the older your liver gets, the longer those chemicals stick around. I've seen patients who thought they had alcohol sensitivity, but really they were just reacting to the junk inside cheap spirits. Once they switched to higher quality options or drank less often, those symptoms disappeared. And here's something else. Cheap liquor often uses lower quality grain or contaminated water during processing. That introduces compounds like methanol or acetaldehyde, which are more toxic and harder to eliminate. After 60, your liver is slower. Your detox pathways are more fragile. And that means every shortcut in the bottle becomes a tax on your system. So my advice is simple. If you're going to drink hard liquor, quality matters more than ever. You don't need much, but you do need clean, because your body can't afford to waste energy processing garbage. Avoid the cheap stuff. It's not saving you money. It's stealing your clarity. That really puts it in perspective because I think a lot of people over 60 are trying to drink better, but they're still shopping by price, not purity. And what I'm hearing is at this stage of life, your system can't afford that trade-off. It's not about being perfect. It's about making smarter decisions with what your body has left in the tank. And that brings me to something I've been meaning to ask. It might surprise some people, but I know you've warned about it before. Let's talk about wine. Not the sugary stuff, not the boxed blends. I'm talking about the glass of red wine with dinner, the healthy habit a lot of people swear by. Where do you stand on wine, especially when it becomes a daily ritual? Wine is the most misunderstood drink in aging. It's romanticized, especially red wine. People say it's good for the heart, and yes, in very small amounts with food and the right kind, it can offer some benefits. But the problem is, moderation turns into routine. One glass becomes two. Occasional becomes nightly, and before you know it, wine isn't a choice. It's a habit. The issue isn't just the alcohol, it's the frequency. Daily drinking, even 1 or 2 glasses, can interfere with sleep, memory, and hormone balance after 60. I've had patients tell me they can't fall asleep without that glass of wine. That's not relaxation. That's dependency. The truth is, wine isn't the enemy. But using it daily to manage stress, boredom, or sleep, that's where the danger begins. I understand what you're saying, but I still love my wine. Before we jump into the better options, there's one more I want to ask you about. It's something that's exploded in popularity lately, especially with people trying to be health conscious, low carb, low calorie, canned. I'm talking about hard seltzers. What's your take on those? This one's sneaky. It sounds like the smart choice. Light, clean, low calorie. But what most people don't see is how processed these drinks really are. Most canned cocktails and hard seltzers are made with malt liquor or mystery spirits. They're mass-produced, flash-flavored, and loaded with preservatives to survive shelf life. Even the ones labeled natural often contain artificial sweeteners or stabilizers that irritate the gut. And the carbonation, especially combined with alcohol, can trigger bloating, reflux, and faster absorption, which means you feel tipsy faster, but recover slower. I've seen older adults switch to hard seltzers, thinking they're doing the right thing, and end up with more brain fog, worse sleep, and stubborn weight gain they can't explain. So, I tell people this. If it comes in a can and promises clean drinking, be suspicious. It's still alcohol, and often it's the cheapest kind, just dressed up with branding. That's such a wake-up call, because the branding makes it feel healthy, low sugar, low carb, sparkling. But what you're saying is it's just processed alcohol in disguise. And after hearing all this, it's clear. It's not just about how much we drink, it's about what we're drinking and why. So let's shift the focus now. What if someone still wants to enjoy a drink now and then without sacrificing their sleep, their joints, or their brain? Let's talk about the better options. Dr. Tucker, what's one type of alcohol you actually do feel comfortable recommending? In small amounts for someone over 60? In small amounts for someone over 60? If someone over 60 still wants to enjoy alcohol and do it in a way that respects their brain, their heart, and their sleep, there are 2 options I can stand behind, but I want to be very clear. They only work in moderation and only when they're part of a calm, intentional lifestyle, not a habit, not an escape. The first is dry red wine, not sweet red blends, not boxed wine. I'm talking about a properly made dry red like a Cabernet, Pinot Noir, or Merlot, preferably organic and ideally from a source you trust. Red wine contains compounds that actually support vascular health. Resveratrol, flavonoids, polyphenols. These can help reduce oxidative stress and maintain healthy circulation, which is especially important after 60. But the dose makes the difference. 1 glass with food once or twice a week. That's it. Drinking wine with meals dramatically changes how it's absorbed. When combined with protein, fat, and fiber, alcohol enters the bloodstream more slowly. That means less strain on the liver, less blood sugar volatility, and less disruption to your brain chemistry. What I worry about is when wine becomes automatic, a reflex, something you pour while watching TV or trying to fall asleep. That's when even red wine becomes a silent drain on your system. Now, if you prefer something stronger, clear spirits can be a better alternative to beer or sugary cocktails, but only high-quality spirits in very small amounts. A single ounce of vodka or gin, ideally organic and free from added sugar or flavoring, is the cleanest form of alcohol you can find. No mixers, no tonic water, just a splash over ice with maybe a twist of lemon or cucumber. Why clear spirits? Because they contain fewer congeners, those byproducts of fermentation that make you feel worse the next day. Fewer additives, less inflammatory baggage. But again, frequency is everything. I'm not giving anyone a license to drink daily. Your liver still has to process it. Your brain still feels the ripple effect. But if alcohol is part of a special moment, a shared meal, a slow evening, a celebration, and you choose clean, minimal options, then yes, the body can handle it. Not because it's good, but because it's not overwhelming. that really reframes the whole conversation because it's not about giving alcohol a free pass. It's about understanding what the body can still handle, and more importantly, how it handles it. It's not just the drink, it's the timing, it's the dose, it's what you eat with it, and what kind of life you're building around it. And that's what I appreciate about this conversation. You're not saying never. You're saying know your limits and honor them. Now, not everyone wants to drink alcohol. Some people are cutting back completely. Others are just looking for better options that still let them relax, unwind, and enjoy the ritual. So, let's talk about that. Dr. Tucker, what are a couple of your favorite non-alcoholic alternatives? Something someone over 60 can enjoy socially or in the evening without worrying about inflammation, sleep, or their long-term health. This is something I talk about with patients more and more these days. Not just what to cut, but what to replace it with. Because when people stop drinking alcohol, what they often miss isn't the alcohol itself. It's the ritual, the glass in your hand, the transition into evening, the signal to your nervous system that the day is done. So when we replace that, we need something that still feels intentional, still feels adult, but supports the body, not taxes it. The first thing I recommend is fermented non-alcoholic drinks like kombucha, shrubs, or kefir-based mixes. These drinks have depth, they have acidity, they give your palate something to pay attention to, and if they're low in sugar and properly made, they can actually benefit your gut. They feed the microbiome, they support digestion, and they help regulate mood. But I'll stress, not all kombucha is created equal. Some are loaded with added fruit juice or cane sugar. What you want is a raw, unfiltered version with 5g of sugar or less per serving and a bite to it. I've had patients build whole routines around this. A fancy glass, some crushed herbs, a slice of ginger. Suddenly, it's no longer about what's missing. It's about what they're gaining. Now, the second option is what I call functional herbal elixir. These are warm or chilled drinks made with ingredients like chamomile, reishi, ashwagandha, ginger, cacao, real herbs and roots that have calming or restorative effects. No alcohol, no caffeine, no sugar crashes, just plants that help your nervous system downshift. Many of these can be bought as powders or tinctures, or even brewed at home, and they create that same soothing effect, but without the fog, the dehydration, or the metabolic chaos. I always say if the drink is part of your identity, make it one that helps you heal, because your body is listening. Even at 60, 70, or 90 years old, it still responds to what you give it. That really says it all because it's not just about alcohol. It's about attention. It's about choosing things that support your body instead of slowly wearing it down. And whether you're cutting back, quitting completely, or just drinking more consciously, the message is the same. At this stage of life, the details matter. Not because you're fragile, but because every decision either builds you or breaks you down. And if one swap, one smarter choice can mean better sleep, a sharper mind, and more strength in the years ahead, that's worth raising a glass to.